It's Friday, September 12th, and I'm going to be talking about two things today. One, are you actually richer as the Canadian government said you are yesterday? And two, the economy of hate. So first things first, let's break down this report that came out yesterday about the economic health of Canadian homes and Canadians, your average Canadians. So its headline is that Canadians are richer. They are better off now than they were last year, this quarter, than they were the quarter before. Canadians are doing better. But that isn't what I hear from anybody, and that isn't what it looks like. So how can they possibly come up with numbers that say that Canadians are better off when nobody's really seeing it? Well, as it turns out, household net worth, and we'll get back to why that little bit needs to be in parentheses, rose 2.7% in the second quarter to $17.6 trillion. Per capita net worth was up to $442,000 per person in Canada. Quite shocking, isn't it? Is everybody in your house sitting on $442,000? No. Net worth takes into account everything that you have liquid, cash you can go take out at an ATM, and everything that isn't. So further into this report, it goes on to say there is a gross disparity between who has this money and who doesn't. 20% of all Canadians are who are making up these numbers. 20%. Because net worth is investments and homes, real estate, secondary homes, yada, yada, yada. I wonder what age demographic happens to be the largest demographic of homeowners, secondary homeowners, and who also happens to be relatively economically savvy, giving them massive amounts of cash at this point because of compound interest, sitting in investments. Now, I have said this before and I will say it again. Not all boomers are rich. 40% of boomers do not even own a home. This is not all boomers, but it sure is a lot of them. And so their pensions went up because the S&P 500 went up and the TSX went up. And so their investment portfolios went up. And even if their home prices fell just a little bit, it's still up. Overall, their net worth is up. Everybody else, you slide out of the averages. You do not matter. That is what this report said to me, at least, as I read through it. Because Canadians are carrying $1.74, I rounded up, it's 173.7, $1.74 for every dollar in income. That is the average. You earn $1, you owe $1.75. Those two things don't really work together, that we are at almost all-time highs for debts. And we are also at almost all-time highs for net worth. Now, yes, a fair amount of debt that people are carrying are their mortgages, but your net worth is how much is your house worth minus how much you owe on it. So if you have a $1.8 million home and you have a $1.5 million mortgage on it, you have a net worth of $300,000. You are not necessarily richer than the person who lives in one of those houses that we see that are, in downtown Toronto, and it's the smallest house in the city for sale for $700,000, but they own it without a mortgage. They have higher net worth than you do, even though your home is worth more. So 14.6, I want to say, percent of the debt that people are carrying is credit cards and loans, and that includes auto loans. This isn't good, but I'm not sure that there's really a way out. A large portion of what people are carrying is mortgages. Mortgage rates have gone up, aren't coming back down quickly enough for people as they're coming up for renewal. So this was all sort of to be expected. But the media running on Canadians are richer, and you know the Liberals are going to announce it too, that Canadians are doing better today than they were a year ago. We're better than the Justin Trudeau government, and we're damn well better than the Harper government, because you know that's what's coming. But the truth of the matter is compound interest and reinvesting some of those gains, or all of those gains, for years means that those people can make more money every year. And it just keeps growing and snowballing, snowballing, snowballing. So boomers made a lot of money. That's what it says. When you read that headline, realize that. Now, completely changing gears. And while I discuss politics and the politics of the economy, I am going to completely flip it on its head, because stuff happened this week, and it's stuff that happened that affects all of us, no matter where you live. Now, first things first, prior to Wednesday, I had no idea who Charlie Kirk was. None whatsoever. I have yet to see anything that he has said, written, interviews, nothing. I'm sorry, I am full. Who I follow, what I have to do, my schedule is full. I will say this, I did notice the reaction. And I follow a lot of people on, and I hate to say this, but it's now both sides. And I saw that one side was quite visibly raw from this. And I saw what the other side was doing. That was not okay. That's not okay no matter what. But their actions, their celebrations, their stupid little dances, that is fed not only to people like me in the middle, but to people over here who were raw. And that is done so that everybody stays on whatever app it is longer. Now, yesterday was September 11th, and I was really quite shocked at how few people recognized the day, said anything about the day. For me, it's always going to take me back to that day 24 years ago. And I guess we all have to come to terms with the fact that those of us who remember it are getting older, and there's an entire generation under us who has no recollection of that day whatsoever. It means nothing to them. And part of that is 24 years ago yesterday, we all came together. We all came together. In Canada, we had the planes landing in Newfoundland that they've learned how to capitalize off of with a play. We had police and fire from all departments go to New York City over the weeks and months after. We had donations. We had donation matching. And for those 48 hours, I think a lot of us were glued to our televisions. We just sat there and watched. And now that world doesn't exist. That world where Wolf Blitzer will sit on air for 7 hours straight. It doesn't exist anymore. And part of that came about in 2007 to 2009, I want to say. We had the advent and the real adoption of Facebook in 2007, 2008. And then the first thing that we had was Occupy Wall Street, because America was going through a huge recession and the rich were getting rich off of it, even though it was their fault. It was a huge hot mess. But what is now Meta learned in Occupy Wall Street, which is different from previous years of protesting. You know, there were protests against Vietnam, there were protests against Korea, there have been protests against everything for all of modern society. But Occupy Wall Street is where it changed, because social media owners, shareholders, social media owners who were just owners back then, they learned that people angry about Occupy Wall Street spend more time on their app. They learned that they could be a meeting place for like-minded extremists across the world. And we get to today. And there have been so many shootings in America before Charlie Kirk. So many. I'm not going to go through all of them. Bernie Sanders actually put out an incredible video that I think everybody should watch. But now we are even more monetized. And beyond being monetized for staying on their platform, they have learned and published studies that anger drives views. Anger drives retention. So I have this question to ask of all of you watching. Your neighbor, if they vote differently than you, they are a different religion, or they are a different race, would you really turn your back on them? Would you really go out and attack them? Chances are you wouldn't. Most decent people wouldn't. And don't get me wrong, the majority of Canadians, the majority of humans are decent people. But that is not what we are being fed, because there is no money in decency. So when you see those hundreds of people celebrating the death of someone, realize that it has nothing to do with what is actually out there. It is just that it is going to make you angry, and so you will stay there longer, and the algorithm has been trained to show you it. Because we live in a different world. There is no denying that. We do not only have a television in this room, a television in that room, and our cable news. We now have our phones in our pockets telling us whatever it is algorithms think we want to hear so that they get paid. While I technically am a content creator, but I am more of a user, we, the consumers, are actually the product. We are making the rich richer. We are making the world a more dangerous place by not immediately scrolling past that video. And so I want to ask all of you, if you can do one thing for me this week, it's that when you see any video that drives you absolutely crazy, really makes you angry, scroll past it. Keep moving. The only way that we as society win is if we start fighting back against the algorithm. Social media is wonderful. It connects you with a lot of people, but we aren't in control of it. And as long as we continue to allow this game to be played and people to make millions and millions of dollars a day off of it, things like the passing of Charlie Kirk will continue to happen. I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend, are safe, and thank you for watching.